Hello Audioholics, this is Logan, and here's a video that is a long time coming. Basically, I am going to be covering my entire vinyl LP collection. So this includes regular studio albums, live albums, compilations like greatest hits, things like that. And just buckle up because this is going to be a long video. Uh, I'm going to be doing A through C, but you know me, I have a tendency to ramble, especially when it's something I'm very passionate about. So, without further ado, I have about 500 to 1,000 records, give or take. And if this goes as smoothly as I hope it does, I will consider getting into like my singles, like 45s. Um, Maybe I'll cover like my cassette tapes or 8 tracks in another video, CDs. Um, I don't have nearly as much of like all of those other things, but it could happen. They could be like relatively quick videos. Did just get quite a few cassette tapes though, so that could be fun. Anyway, forget the future. Let's go to the now. Let's start off with the A's. First album I have is ABBA, Greatest Hits. Uh, this is really all I need of ABBA. I'd say, I saying that, I think like some of the earlier ABBA albums I should consider getting because they're actually not too bad. Also, if you hear like sort of like a feedback sound, especially when I take my hand off the computer like this, I apologize for that. I think it's a problem with shielding on this computer. I'm using my old MacBook from 2012 and it has some problems, but it still works pretty well. Anyway, uh, this one is. Oh, this is Accept. This one is Ball Breaker, I believe. Ball Breaker or Ball Buster. I can't remember the name of the album, but still, it's a very good album. Surprised it hasn't been reissued. I'm imagining there's probably like some record label politics alongside that. Oh, here's okay. Um, okay. I'm actually gonna rearrange this. This is Greatest Hits of Accept, Midnight Highway. Basically a compilation of like stuff from like the first 3 albums before Restless and Wild. Here we have AC/DC, Let There Be Rock. I almost skipped over this in like a previous take of this video, but thankfully I do have it. It's a remaster though. This is also a remaster. This is Power Age by AC/DC. I personally prefer the Bon Scott era to the Brian Johnson era. It's definitely divided into 2 camps, and I think it's more so a lot of, especially like for older people, I think it's kind of just more so like, what did you grow up with? Did you grow up with 80s AC/DC or did you grow up with 70s AC/DC? And I think a lot of people grew up with them in the 80s, so that's why they like Brian Johnson. I like Back in Black. That's really the only AC/DC album I like. Speaking of which, here's Back in Black. Here's For Those About to Rock. I'm not a huge fan of that album, but I'll need to give it another chance. Here is Aerosmith, self-titled. Very good album. Get Your Wings. Toys in the Attic. Rocks. I would say between Toys in the Attic and Rocks, those are like my 2 favorite Aerosmith albums. Draw the Line is also very good. I think kind of underrated. Especially the title track. The title track is just killer. Aerosmith Classics, actually, A Night at the Ruts, and then Aerosmith Classics. I try to organize these by time. Let me actually switch those around. Time of like initial release. So yeah, this is Aerosmith Classics. This is all Aerosmith Classics Live, rather. And then this is Done with Mirrors. Another album I'll need to give another chance, because I didn't really love it when I first heard it. It kind of had like too much polish and not in the traditional like Permanent Vacation pumped way. It's like too much polish on top of not enough polish, if I remember correctly. Aldo Nova. Many of you would know Aldo Nova from their one-hit song Fantasy, which is a very good one. Kind of, well, new wave metal, but not like Iron Maiden. I mean, like metal infused with like new wave pop, I would say. We have, here's the Alice Cooper albums, Love It to Death. Amazing album. Killers, another good one. School's Out. This is probably my favorite, either my favorite or my second favorite vinyl, because it has the one where it like transforms into a school desk, and that's just so cool. I love that. That's like one of the major reasons I love vinyl, is because a lot of times they do cool stuff like that. Here's Muscle of Love, another really cool vinyl. Mine's kind of messed up. Still plays just fine, but, like, the actual sleeve is kind of messed up. This is, Billion Dollar Babies. Good album. Here's Alice Cooper Greatest Hits. I actually probably don't have a need for this album anymore. I don't think there's anything on here that isn't on another album that I have. And actually I own this album on 8-track as well. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll give this one to Tyler. He might like it. He's kind of like starting out, so he might like a greatest hits of Alice Cooper. Welcome to My Nightmare. That is a classic album. Goes to Hell. This is actually sort of like the sequel to Welcome to My... Well, sequel in terms of like story, not Welcome to My Nightmare, which was an absolute travesty. But, yeah, for those who don't know, the latter half of Welcome to My Nightmare is a concept about Steven, who I think has like an alcohol addiction problem. Definitely, obviously very topical for Alice Cooper at that time. And then Goes to Hell is where I think he ultimately dies, goes to hell, and tries to negotiate with Satan. If I remember right, that's the concept. Don't quote me on that, though. Early Almond, I believe this is a compilation of some early... I don't know if they're hits or singles or demos or what. I actually haven't listened to this album yet, but early songs by the Allman Brothers. I'm not a huge fan of the Allman Brothers or just really Southern rock in general, but I have a little bit of it. Here's Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. This is, I'd say, more so just Southern rock just by politics alone. And I mean like political, like actual political politics. Ted Nugent's obviously infamous or famous, however you look at it, for being very right-wing conservative. But look, I don't, whether you agree with him or not, you have to admit he is a very good guitarist. One of the best, I would actually say. Here we have America. It's their greatest hits album. The Animals, another greatest hits album. April Wine, Power Play. This is The Nature of the Beast. This is my favorite April Wine album. And then we have this is Nature of the Beast. This is I Like to Rock. This is Nature of the Beast. Sorry, I messed that up there. What happened? Oh my god! This is the Apples in Stereo. Guys, if you've never checked this band out, you need to. Strawberry Fire is a very good song off of this. Just apples in stereo. Check them out, but more importantly, if you're a collector of vinyl, buy their stuff on vinyl. It is amazing. It is one of those albums that, above all else, really shines on vinyl. Here, what is that? Oh, this is Arcade Fire, The Suburbs. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. I cannot recommend this album highly enough to basically everyone. It doesn't really matter necessarily what your music tastes are. Check this album out. It is just utterly amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Here we have Asia. This is their self-titled album. Very good. You know, a lot of people like to give Asia a lot of crap for being like really over the top kind of pop. But I'd say fans of prog, you should check this out. It's, I would say, like prog pop. Heat of the Moment and Only Time Will Tell. Obviously, those are the two big hits of Asia. But there's some other good songs. Time Again is a song that you really need to listen to. It's really heavy. Here is the follow-up album. Actually, I don't remember what it's called. I'll need to look at that. Does it say? Yeah, I don't see it, but this is the follow-up album to the self-titled. Very good. Not as good as the debut album, in my opinion. It leans a little bit more heavy into the prog aspects of Asia, but I don't know. I think it's maybe a little bit too polished. Alright, so here we go. This is the Bees now. Starting off with, oh, this is Bach! This is, one of the few classical records I have. I don't think this is any particular symphony, if I recall. I think this is just a bunch of random, like, concertos from Bach. Not the best thing, but I picked it up for, like, 50 cents at a place that was going out of business and just happened to be selling records. They were mostly like a musical instruments store, but they had a couple records and actually a few Betamax tapes for some reason, like just as you were about to leave. They're out of business now, but very good. Bachman Turner Overdrive, this is their first album. Give Me Your Money, Please, I think was the biggest song on this one. This is four-wheel drive. This is in the wrong place. Again, I like to do these by chronological. Here we go. Here's Bachman Turner Overdrive 2. This is a masterpiece album. A lot of like really good heavy songs on here. I Don't Have to Hide From You, Let It Ride, Taking Care of Business is on this album. Stormgate is on this one. Very good album, but equally as good is Four Wheelin'. This is a fantastic album. What is it? Sledgehammer, I think, is on this one. Let It Roll On Down the Highway. Is Tramp on this? No, Tramp was on Bachman Turner Overdrive 2. I think I don't have, let's see. Roll On Down the Highway is definitely, the hit from this. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet also is a hit off of that album. Let's see here. Bad Company, this is their self-titled. Paul Rodgers, I would say, is one of my biggest influences vocally. Running with the Pack. We have Straight Shooter. Desolation Angels, I believe the name of this album is. It's the one with Rock and Roll Fantasy on it. I need to get Burning Skies. That's one of my favorite, not only Bad Company songs, but probably by proxy, my favorite Bad Company album. This is Bad English. You might know Bad English from, When I See You Smile, I Can Change the World. Very good song. Kind of like late 80s, sort of mainstream, I guess, AM pop. Badfinger. Actually, I think Bad English might have had. I think Bad English has like some sort of connection with Journey. I think one of the people from Journey left and formed Bad English. This is Badfinger. Don't exactly know what album this is, but Badfinger is just amazing. Anybody who's a fan of the Beatles and just wish that the Beatles would release more, I think Badfinger. I mean, they were signed to Apple Records for a while. A lot of members from Badfinger played in some of their solo careers, specifically George Harrison's solo career, I think. All Things Must Pass. I believe the Beatles might have produced, I think, George Harrison might have produced some of their albums? Or, not George Harrison, George Martin, I think, might have produced some of their albums. Alright, so here is... Oh god, what is this? Oh, this is Joan Baez live. This is a very underrated live album. You don't really hear people talking about this when you hear like best live albums of all time. I think it's up there, especially if you're into like, you know, early 60s, 70s folk. Little Deuce Coupe by the Beach Boys. Here's an album that's in pretty rough shape. I'm going to need to get it replaced at some point, but this is Good Vibrations. This is a repress as well by Pickwick. I'm going to need to, again, get this replaced, hopefully with the original pressing. This is, yeah, very fragile. Hold on a second. There we go. And then here's another greatest hits of the Beach Boys, Endless Summer. I'm not a huge fan of the Beach Boys, but I do have some of their stuff. I don't have Pet Sounds. Very controversial opinion. I've never really been able to get into Pet Sounds. I've never really gotten it. It's, I think, just a little bit too jam band-ish. I don't know. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like Velvet Underground mixed with like obviously the traditional Beach Boys, at this point acid inspired surf rock. Here we are with the Beatles. I own every Beatles album. I do have Revolver, but Tyler's borrowing that one right now. This is the Beatles' first album. These are all the American releases. Beatles' second album. This is Meet the Beatles. Here we have Something Old and Something New. We have A Hard Day's Night. This is the soundtrack version. The Beatles 6, kind of in rough shape, but record still plays fine, so I don't think I'll bother replacing it. This is Help by the Beatles. Here we have the Beatles 65. This is Rubber Souls. Again, I do have Revolver, but it's at Tyler's place right now. He's borrowing it. But my copy of Revolver is a remaster. This is Yesterday and Today. Unfortunately, I do not have the Butcher cover. This is... What is this? This is Sgt. Pepper. Why did it take me so long to figure that out? One of the most iconic albums and album art of all time. Magical Mystery Tour, I used to have this on a remaster, but just yesterday I picked up the original for a pretty good price, 15 bucks. Well, this isn't the original, but it's an earlier repress on Apple Records. This is the White Album. This is a 180 gram remaster from fairly recently. My ex-girlfriend, my first girlfriend, actually got me this for me when I met her in New York. This album, it's probably not my favorite Beatles album. I'd say maybe between Magical Mystery Tour and Abbey Road. But this is an album that, as a result of that, holds quite a bit of sentimental value. And speaking of Abbey Road, that one is up next. Obviously, very iconic album art. Just the instrumentation of that album. I actually did an Audioholics Unite on Abbey Road, if you want to check that one out. It's very... Tyler, I think, had, like, some very sort of mixed opinions on the album. I don't know. I think, like, the Beatles, especially if you listen to it at a young age, and especially if you were there at the time. I wasn't, obviously, but especially if you were there at the time, you know, a lot of nostalgia for the band. But I don't know, because Tyler didn't necessarily grow up with them, so that might shape why he doesn't exactly love them. Let It Be by the Beatles, that's probably their worst studio album, and yeah, I mean, objectively, it's a little bit disjointed, and especially considering the state of the Beatles at the time, I would have been surprised if it wasn't. But given what they were working with, I think it was pretty good. Let It Be Naked is, I think, closer to what the album was originally supposed to be. Had a lot more tight instrumentation, really well mastered, kind of remixed as well. Let It Be Naked. Anybody who wants to hear Let It Be in a totally different light, check that one out. Let It Be Naked. They put it on Spotify. You can probably get it on vinyl or CD if you want as well. Very different masters of a lot of the hits from Let It Be. Here is Hey Jude. This is kind of the unofficial post-Beatles album. I think a lot of people consider this a compilation, and to be fair, it is. But it was released in the United States, I think, exclusively, and it's a lot of songs that might have been released on albums elsewhere, but were released as singles over here. So it's sort of like the not really Beatles album. Here we have... This is an interesting one. This is unfortunately really warped, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to get it replaced, because I don't know exactly how rare it is. But this is interesting. It's a picture disc of some of the studio outtakes from the Get Back, Let It Be sessions at Abbey Road Studio. It's really interesting. I don't know if this is necessarily... I don't know if this is on YouTube or not. Unfortunately, my copy's pretty warped, so it's unknown if I'll be able to get it replaced. I don't know exactly how rare it is. I paid quite a bit for it back when I first got it. But it was discounted, obviously, because it was warped. I don't think there's really a way to unwarp records. If there is, though, let me know. I would love to get that album specifically unwarped, because that one's going to be an expensive one to replace. Let's see. Oh, there's Let It Be. What is that? Okay. Yeah, I put that back in the right. Here's Rarities. Here's a compilation that came out, I believe, in the early 80s. and it has a lot of just different versions of Beatles songs. Most notably, the original single for Penny Lane is on here, and it has a different ending. There's also an extended version of I Am the Walrus on here. There are some songs that would event. I think those are like the only two songs that are. That and maybe another one are like the only two or three songs that are exclusive to this. And then years later, they would put a lot of this album on Past Masters, which I unfortunately don't have, but I would like to get that in the future. Birth of the Beatles. I actually don't entirely know when this album came out. No, I must, because, yeah, I guess this came out later on, because, I don't know. I don't exactly know the order of this, but I'm pretty sure I logged it into Discogs, so it must come after Rarities, is my guess. Yeah, this is messy. A bit of a rant for this for a second. Yeah, these plastic things protect the vinyl cover, and that's nice, and I have it on a lot of my records, obviously. But the big problem is that the adhesive wears off really quickly, and as a result, you have, like, this entire thing of plastic covering my vinyl. So I'm gonna have to, like, rearrange these and put all these in sideways. Birth of the Beatles. Here we are. This is Jeff Beck. There's a couple very good songs on here. Very good hard rock, blues rock album. I think the most interesting thing on this album, though, is arguably the original version of Superstition, which was made famous and made a hit by Stevie Wonder. So my understanding is that I believe this album came out first before the Stevie Wonder album, but Stevie Wonder released Superstition as a single before this, but they were written at the same time. It's very debatable which one is actually first, though. This one is Best of the Bee Gees. This is an early greatest hits. People who are used to, like, Staying Alive, How Deep Is Your Love, a lot of the disco hits from Bee Gees. This is a very different album. A lot of, like, I would say Beatles, maybe like some Pink Floyd maybe in there. There's a little bit of prog, I would say, but mostly like Beatles-ish pop. New York Mining Disaster is an interesting song of 1941. About the New York mining disaster of 1941. Here is another Bee Gees album. I believe this is a later disco-era Bee Gees album. I don't exactly remember what's on it, though. Here is Pat Benatar's first album. Pat Benatar, I don't think, gets nearly the credit that she deserves. She's, I think, one of the most influential. I think without Pat Benatar, we wouldn't have, you know, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, for example, and even later on, we probably wouldn't have a lot of the female rockers that we have now, like Hailstorm, Pink to some extent, Evanescence, things like that. Here is another Pat Benatar album. I don't necessarily remember the names of all of these. Here is Pat Benatar's Fire and Ice. This one is Blackfoot, Black Oak, Arkansas. Very good southern rock, if you're interested in that type of thing. Okay, here we go into Black Sabbath. I already did a wrong opinion on Black Sabbath, so I'll try not to ramble about these, but this is, I think, actually a semi-rare version of the reprint. I'm not entirely sure what region it's in, but it's a later repress from the 1980s. As you can see, it's on the Warner Brothers vinyl, later Warner Brothers record. It's pretty interesting. I can't find this exact copy on Discogs, so I don't know if that makes it rare or just from some sort of foreign market that nobody's talked about. I don't exactly know. It is really interesting, though. Alright, here we have Paranoid. This is, I believe, an original pressing. This is Masters of Reality. Volume 4, this is a 180-gram reissue. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Here is Sabotage. It's always a toss-up between Volume 4 and Sabotage, which one is my favorite. We Sold Our Soul. Really, the entire reason I have this is just for collector's purposes. I probably could at least lend this to Tyler. I think, because it has, like, a lot of the hits on it. It has, like, NIB, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, War Pigs, Iron Man, Sweet Leaf, I think, is on here. Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Here we have the Mob Rules, best Dio era album, for sure. Here we have Live Evil. Good live stuff. Here is 7 Star. This is the not arguable, debatable Tony Martin solo career that they slapped Black Sabbath onto. It's kind of a bit hazy whether it is or isn't that. I've heard some arguments saying it's not exactly that. And then here is Black Sabbath 13. This is an album that has a lot of sentimental value for me, because this is like one of the first albums I ever like downloaded on iTunes, and then also one of the first like new releases I got on vinyl. The Best of Blondie has all their hits on it, obviously. Blood Rock 2. Blood Rock, their big song was DOA, Dead on Arrival. Very kind of acid rock / proto metal. I'm always a fan of proto metal, so. Here's another one of my favorite albums, Blue Oyster Cult, Secret Treaties. And then we have On Your Feet or On Your Knees. Yes. I also did do a wrong opinion on Blue Oyster Cult, so check that out. And then, A Night at the... What is this one called? A Day at the Show or something like that. Something like that. I can't remember. But it's another live album, not nearly as good as On Your Feet or On Your Knees, but still has some pretty good stuff on it. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, self-titled. Spinning Wheels is the big hit off of that one, if you're not familiar with them. Blues Brothers, live. Bon Jovi, self-titled. Really the only Bon Jovi album I actually kind of like. Here is Boomtown Rats. I actually have 2 other Boomtown Rats albums that I just got, and I forgot to put them in my collection. Not that I necessarily remember what those albums are, but this is the one that's the big one. That's I Don't Like Mondays. Very good album. I think they deserve to have more hits, but just a lot of these new wave acts that are one-hit wonders, I think really deserved better. Flock of Seagulls being chief among them. The Vapors as well. I have a Vapors album later on. Here are the original Boston albums. Here's Boston self-titled, Don't Look Back, and then, oh, what is this one? Is this Cool the Engines? Cooley Engines is on here, but I can't remember what the name of this album is. But I would say first album is obviously the best. It's the one with all the hits on it. And then the third one, and then Don't Look Back. So here is David Bowie. We have Space Oddity. This is the American version of that album. The Man Who Sold the World. Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. This is a 180-gram reissue. This one is Diamond Dogs. Aladdin. Heroes. This is actually Dutch pressing, I found out, which is interesting because I got it from the same thrift store I usually go to, but every once in a while they just happen to have foreign pressings, just by complete accident. Here is David Bowie, Let's Dance, and that is the extent of the David Bowie I own. David Bowie, obviously, very talented. Left us too soon. I mean, especially considering how good Black Star was, I would have loved to have seen a follow-up to that album. Jackson Browne, Running on Empty, the sort of, kind of, not really live album. And then, this is the Byrds' Greatest Hits, Volume 2. See, this is actually turning out to be a pretty long... I'll just quickly go through the C's real quick. It's a long video. Again, I apologize for that, but I do tend to ramble, and I have a lot to go over. So here is the Cars self-titled. Actually, let me... Yeah, there we go. I'll put the camera down a bit so you can see. Here's some Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash sings Hank Williams. Johnny Cash, what is this, Blue Train? It's a weird album. It's like all of his songs about trains, or featuring trains. So, as you might imagine, Folsom Prison Blues is on this. This is another Johnny Cash album. The Walls of a Prison. I actually don't think I've listened to that album, but it's pretty interesting. Oh, this is one of my favorite live albums, period. Live at the San Quentin. Listen to this. Listen to the raw power of this album. It is one of, I would say, one of my favorite albums of all time, just period. You know, Boy Named Sue is on this one. San Quentin, the title track, so nice. They, for some reason, sang it twice on this album. You know, Darling Companion, Wanted Man, which was written by Bob Dylan. There's a version of Folsom Prison Blues on here, which there really had to be. Here's Johnny Cash, The Holy Land. Kind of, I guess, sort of like a concept album where he's going to Jerusalem. And then here is oh, Gone Girl. That's, I think, the last Johnny Cash. No. Oh my god, no, this is the one where he sings Hank Williams. What was the other one then? I can't remember. But anyway, the Greatest Hits of Ray Charles. These are all live in simulated stereo. This is a really interesting album. Cheap Trick, live at Budokan. Obviously, you have to have this one on vinyl if you're a collector. Dream Police is another amazing album. I need to get Heaven Tonight at some point. Tyler got that one. And he's kind of a bigger fan of that album. I much prefer Dream Police. Here is... Which one is this? Oh, this is Cher, Half-Breed. I don't mind Cher. She's not my favorite, but she's pretty good. I do also have Sonny and Cher later on. Here we get into Chicago. One of my I might even say my favorite double album, Chicago Transit Authority, which was the original name for the band, by the way, until they changed it to Chicago on the next album. This is the one with 25 or 6 to 4 on it, as well as Make Me Smile, I think it's called. So technically they had 2 self-titled albums. This one, I believe, is Chicago 3. This is Chicago, I want to say 6 or 7. I don't entirely remember. This is their live album. We are actually getting through this pretty quickly. This Chicago 10, this is when they kind of started going pop, with If You Would Leave Me Now being the big hit on it. But there are, like, still, like, a lot of, like, good jazz rock songs on here. I obviously prefer the earlier stuff from Chicago, but I have a soft spot for their later, more contemporary songs. Chicago Greatest Hits. This is... Which one is... Where's Chicago 7? I don't know. I can't find Chicago 7, but I think I have that one. I should. I think I just picked it up. Anyway, here's this album. I actually don't know which one this is. I just saw it because it was cheap in Chicago, so I'll need to listen to that one at some point. And then here's, like, when they were really getting into pop stuff. This has, like, You're the Inspiration on it. In fact, if you want a good snapshot of how soulless this band was by this point, listen to the later re-recording of 25 or 6 to 4 with all the electronic garbage on it. It's so bad. Cigarettes After Sex, very good. I guess you would call this dream pop. I highly recommend them. They have 2 albums, and I got their first self-titled album on vinyl. Obviously, they're still relatively new. That album is just a couple years old. I think 2018 or 2017, something like that. The history of Eric Clapton. It has a lot of stuff, early stuff, like Cream. I think there's some Yardbirds on there. Might be some Blind Faith. Definitely Derek and the Dominoes. Here is... I should know what this album is, actually, because it's, like, one of the albums you need to get on vinyl, but I am drawing a blank. This one is 446 Ocean Boulevard. This is the one with I Shot the Sheriff on it, which I think played a very big part in allowing reggae to be as big as it was in the West, or in the United States at least. So this is Slow Hand, has Cocaine on it, very good song. Wonderful Tonight is also on that one. I think Lay Down Sally is on that one as well. The Clash, London Calling, you have to own this album. Joe Cocker, Little Help from My Friend. Coldplay, A Rush of Blood to the Head. One of my favorite albums of all time. And just, this vinyl is just really good as well. Like, look at this. Oh, look at this gatefold. This is an amazing album to have on vinyl. Yes. Phil Collins, Face Value. I have all the original the first 4 Phil Collins albums. Which one is this? Is this, Oh, Hello, I Must Be Going. This is the one with I Don't Care Anymore. Okay. Oh, what? I can't find... Oh, I can't find, but I swear I have it. I have No Jacket Required, and it's like one of my favorite vinyls of all time. I'm gonna need to find that. Now I'm, like, kind of sad that I can't find it right now. That's so sad. Here's an interesting one, though. This is, but seriously, this was, I think, his last album of the 80s. But it's a foreign pressing. It is, I believe, either a German or Italian pressing, if I remember what Discogs said. But it's on WEA. Oh, here's something that hasn't necessarily aged well. And if that's not bad enough... Yeah. Okay, moving swiftly along. We have Creedence Clearwater Revival Live. And then I have quite a few greatest hits of Creedence Clearwater Revival. This is not because I'm not a huge fan of Creedence. I am. But I just have not come across any official Creedence albums as of yet. But Greatest Hits Volume 1, Greatest Hits Volume 2, and then this is another Greatest Hits that was released a little bit later. And then finally, for this part, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Deja Vu. Fantastic folk rock album. One of the quintessential albums you need to own on vinyl. Here's greatest hits of Crosby, Stills, Nash, & Young so far. And then here we have Daylight Again by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And then, finally, we have Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Let me see what this album is, if I can. Yeah, I don't see what album this is, but it's this one. Again, another later album. So, tune in next time. I will go over these albums. This will be D through, I believe, K. Yeah, so D through K is what I will be going through next.